Some names are not just remembered, they become history.
We all know the name Anne Frank. Her story is one of the most powerful and recognized in the world. But what if I told you there's another story hiding just beneath the surface? A story about her name itself and how the name we all know almost wasn't the one she chose for us.
So, let me ask you this. Was Anne Frank the name she actually wanted to be known by? The answer is, well, it's complicated, and it's pretty surprising. It really opens up a whole new window into her dreams, not just as a girl writing in a diary, but as a serious author with big ambitions.
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to step back a bit. To understand the author she was becoming, you first have to understand the world that was closing in on her. The historical context here isn't just background noise, it's everything. It's the reason she wrote at all.
So here's the quick rundown. Anne was born in Germany in 1929. Now, just 4 years later, the Nazi regime comes to power, and this wave of horrific discrimination against Jewish people begins. It was incredibly dangerous. So her family does what they have to do. They flee to Amsterdam. But the threat didn't just stay in Germany. By 1942, it had followed them, forcing the entire family into hiding. This timeline, it's not just dates on a page. It's the story of a world shrinking until it became just a few hidden rooms.
And it was in that tiny, isolated space that her diary, which she nicknamed Kitty, became so much more than a book. It was her best friend, her confidant. It was the one place she could say absolutely anything, pour out all her fears, her dreams, her frustrations, without anyone else seeing. It was completely 100% private.
So for 2 whole years, her writing was her secret. But then, a voice from the outside world, a voice from a radio, was about to change the entire purpose of that diary forever.
Imagine it. It's 1944. You're totally cut off from everything you know. And then a message crackles through the airwaves that seems like it's speaking directly to you and to the one secret passion you have.
So the Dutch government in exile made this broadcast, and they basically said, hey everyone, save your diaries, save your letters. We need them to create a record of what happened during this war. For Anne, this was like a lightning bolt. All of a sudden, her private diary wasn't just a friend anymore. It was a piece of history. It could be a book. Her secret thoughts could actually mean something to the world.
Yeah, that broadcast lit a fire in her. She immediately started thinking like a real author. And you know what one of the first things an author thinks about is? Their name, their professional identity.
And get this, she didn't just dream about it, she got to work. She started rewriting her diary entries, polishing the language, and she even created pseudonyms, fake names for everyone hiding with her. This wasn't just a kid playing around. This was a writer making a very conscious decision to shape a story and to protect the people in it. So, what about her own name? Well, she chose one. She considered the pen name Anne Alice. Just let that sink in for a second. The name that's known and loved around the world could have been Anne Alice. It just goes to show you she was already drawing a line between her personal life and her life as an artist.
Of course, Anne never got the chance to publish her work herself. After the war, that huge, heartbreaking responsibility fell to the only member of her immediate family to survive, her father, Otto Frank. So Otto was faced with his daughter's writings, both her original raw diary and her edited manuscript. He decides to fulfill her ultimate dream and get it published, but he makes this one incredibly important choice. He decides to use her real name, Anne Frank.
And why was that so important? Think about it. Anne Alice would have been an author. But Anne Frank was a real girl, a real person. Using her real name grounded the story in a truth you simply cannot deny. It wasn't fiction. It was a testimony. It made her an authentic voice for the millions who suffered. And it gave a single human face to a tragedy so enormous, it's almost impossible to grasp.
Over the decades, Otto Frank's decision had this ripple effect that no one could have possibly imagined. The name Anne Frank started to grow, becoming something much bigger than just one person. It became a global symbol. And this leads to this really fascinating idea, this symbolic pen name. It's what happens when a real person's name becomes so iconic that it starts to represent a whole idea, a movement, something much, much bigger than themselves.
And honestly, Anne Frank is probably the most powerful example of this in the world. When you hear that name today, you don't just think of a teenage girl. You think of hope in the face of despair. You think of courage. You think of the voices that were silenced. In a strange and beautiful way, her real name became the most powerful pen name of all, representing an entire generation.
Anne once wrote in her diary, "I want to go on living, even after my death." Because of her incredible talent, a fateful radio broadcast, and her father's loving and crucial choice, she did. She absolutely did. Not as Anne Olis, the writer she was planning to become, but as Anne Frank, a name that became a voice for history itself.